Hello, Psychology 315. Good evening. I am again doing your Chapter 6 review tonight. And then before I get started, I don't know if you're familiar with the Cornell Note Taking. I'll post something on your online, and then also I'll post a PDF of kind of the note taking system. But just real quick. Kind of the way it works is you section off your notebook. So right here on this, you put a line down here. Generally, if you have your normal loose leaf, you'll kind of have the holes here, and then that line would be about right there, like the red line, but it's over a little bit. And then what you're doing is, this is from a book I'm reading right now called Getting Things Done by David Allen, and you can see where it's got so what I'm doing on this side here, like say you're in class, you make your notes there just like you normally would, and then if you and then you keep them separated. So you'll notice that, say, organizing is on the left side of the paper, and then my notes about it are on the right side. And then what it does is, if I'm studying, what I can do is I can I can cover it up like this. And then knowing that on this side here is going to be where is about organizing, or I can do it the other way where I can cover up, like that part. I see organizing, and then I've got to think of the of the definition over there. And then also too, you'll write like a summary at the bottom. You can see where I did that in red for the pages that I was reading and listening to. I'd like to. When I'm reading a book, I've gotten to a point where I actually like to listen and read at the same time on my Kindle. So anyway, I'll put some stuff online there, and again, I'll give you some extra credit points if you use this. I think it could really help you improve your quiz grades, since I'm allowing you to do handwritten notes of what you read. And again, it does work. I'm just kind of like hitting myself for finding this out as I've got. Maybe I'll have a bunch more school. Hopefully, I wouldn't mind that. So, all right. Well, let's get started on Chapter 6. So, on Blackboard, there's an announcement already that I sent out earlier with the pages to read, and I've got skim. Normally, when I mean skim, that means that pretty much the only thing I'm going to ask on those are going to be the bold things. I'm not going to ask anything really at all, except for page 360. There's a really good table there, I believe. And then also I'm just kind of looking down at what it says. Of course, you've got this as well. But again, I guess somewhat of a fair amount of reading and knowing that you still have your outlines due. But anyway, it just seemed like really important stuff. And of course, in the 37 pages you don't have to read, again, especially I know one part's again pretty important. So I'm on page 344 right there, and then you can see where I've got it highlighted there. So on page 344, it's going to be Erickson's theory of psychological development. So this thing right here is huge. So make sure you know this. We've actually already had a test question on Chapter 1 that was on from Chapter 1, and then the night class, I think it was one on the first exam, but it's the one about trust and mistrust being the birth to 1 year, 1 to 3 years, autonomy versus shame and doubt. Again, 3 to 5 years. I want you to know these, be familiar with the different ones. Actually, for you, let's just worry about birth to 20 years, since it's child development, so you don't have to worry about early adulthood, middle adulthood, late adulthood, which actually kind of tells the whole story. But anyway, stages of development's really neat. And then again, having recently done one of my groups at Chrysalis, and it was really neat to listen to the women as far as like when things went wrong in their lives that led them to addiction. So, all right. So that is that. So page 336. I want you to look up identity. You'll need to know identity, and then identity crisis. There's a something quoted, says it's undoubtedly triggered by physical changes that occur during adolescence, but society also demands that adolescents behave in new ways. And just remember that the adolescent, that was a thing where going through puberty was almost like childbirth, as far as the amount of stress it's put on the body. And I'm talking about birth as far as the baby, not necessarily the mother on that part, as far as two big parts of childhood. Again, always trying to use the things we use from the other chapters and trying to grow, kind of the old scaffolding thing, right? I'm looking at page 337, and I'm looking at early temperament. And again, you'll see where temperament is highlighted, and then kind of there's a thing originally talking about infant temperament, and then of course you'll need to know the easy child, difficult child, slow to warm child, maybe even who did that, Thomas and Chess from 77, and then also too, I want you to know on page 338, I've turned the pages, I'm looking at the bullet points, as far as positive affect, fearful distress, and irritable distress. And then looking at page 339, you can skip this part where I've got it X'd out. And then the other things, again, as far as attachment is huge. You really need to know attachment, Mary Ainsworth, and strange situation. And then also on page 340, right up here, again, you can kind of see where it's securely attached, insecure avoidant, insecure resistant, insecure disorganized. And again, maybe, and then two, just being familiar with like what explains variations in attachment relations. It is actually the second paragraph. You can see where I've got it highlighted there. And then again, you can see on this one I've got it starred, so that's going to be an important table. And then also too, below, there's another thing I've got highlighted there, and then that is going to be what implication does a child's attachment have for later development. And then again, actually, again, sometimes usually maybe even the focus on teaching. Obviously, we should go through every single one of these, but there's only so much time. But that's something I found interesting there. So now when we get to page 343 over here, it says skim. Now again, like I said, just as far as skim, please look at it. There's some good things in there. And then we go to page 346, I believe. So I give you a few pages off. And then this whole page here on 346. You see where it's got the table here, and then of course the where it says developing emotional self-regulation, and then on page 347, you'll see they're the only two bold words there: problem-focused coping and emotion-focused coping. And then going to page 348, again, I want you to know about the thing on top, learning to delay gratification, since we actually talked about that the other day in class. And then also too, fostering the sections fostering emotional competence in the classroom. And then I'm looking on page 349, and it's saying the bolded word emotional competence. And then also being familiar with those bullet points. There's 4 bullet points there. Teacher needing to create caring, blah, blah, blah. Teachers functioning as important role models to exhibit. It is important for teachers to discuss emotions, ... Finally, explicit instruction, ... A, B, C, D, E. Again, of course, anytime you see A, B, C, D, E, hopefully you're getting used to the way, I guess I give, as far as the questions I ask, and then maybe it'll help you, again, your other classes in the future. So then we're going to page 350. 350, you can see where, again, obviously I've got these highlighted, so this is going to be an important, this is on page 351, but that's an important thing up top, so you do need to know that. And then characteristics of children with emotional and behavioral disorders. You'll see there's the 5: hyperactivity, aggression, self-injurious behavior. Then the third one down is withdrawal. Fourth one's immaturity. Fifth one is learning difficulties. Again, this is where the behavioral disorders come into play in these different areas. Now, after you read this, this here, you can start to skim again, and you get to skim a fair amount. I think you get to skim. Maybe you don't get to skim anything. How did that go? Page 350. Oh, nope. Sorry. Do not skim that. Make sure you know that. I need to learn how to video edit, but I guess you can skim the bottom of that page. I'm not going to ask anything from the bottom of page 351, so that helps, doesn't it? Let's see. Again, on this one, you can skim this part up here, and then on the bottom, important sentence in there that I've got highlighted, and of course, well, not really, doesn't really give that much because it's conduct disorders as far as what they're characterized by. And it's where it's bolded, so you should be in good shape there. 353, don't really have anything on there. 354, did I say you can skip 354? Yeah, you can skip 354. 355, we've got some bullet points here where I've got highlighted. And then so now we get to page 356, self-concept, kind of important. You see all the stuff I wrote there. So again, you got self-concept and self-esteem, and self-concept refers to the beliefs, attitudes, knowledge, and ideas people have about themselves. And now self-esteem is the evaluation of our traits, abilities, and characteristics. So, again, as far as just the difference is, self-concept is kind of, what are your beliefs type thing, as opposed to self-esteem is how do you evaluate yourself? That's where you get high or low self-esteem. And then as far as normally with concept, you don't normally say high or low self-concept. But there is, but it's not as common. And just we'll go over it more in class. But self-esteem really, and obviously it's important. Don't get me wrong, but again, just what studies are starting to show now, where it's just not as important as again, this self-concept type thing. So we'll discuss it. So that's why I'm letting you skip some stuff on that. And then also too, just noticing on page 357, it's the first whole sentence. You see the kid looking at himself in himself in the mirror, and it says students with high perceptions of ability may approach learning tasks with confidence, and success on those tasks may bolster their confidence. Again, I think a lot of things too, as I wrote down this confidence, again, if you're confident about something, you just do it. You just do the task. You don't really worry about it. If you're not confident, a lot of times that's where we start to second guess ourselves. So again, that gets back to, sorry I keep talking about cognitive noise, but I just think there's so much to that. And just seeing, the kids having these thoughts and other stuff running in their heads, they're just not going to perform like the kids that have confidence. So again, the key would be to, instill that confidence. So again, so I think I started on page 357 at this developmental studies and self-concept. I'm saying that you can skim that. Again, I even wrote a note here as far as this is important. Again, it's kind of a thing too where I think if there's too much stuff, if we go over too much stuff, you walk away with nothing. And again, important stuff, but you can keep going, keep going, keep going, just keep swimming, just keep swimming. I guess that's from Finding Nemo. I don't know if it, I think that's how I go. So anyway, so 357 on page 357, and then page 360. Did I skip 360? Yeah, 360. Just know these, how these are connected up here. Again, with this self-concept being cognitive competence, that's thinking, social, how they interact, and physical abilities and appearance, their thoughts, as far as that. And then, so page 357, of course, developing ethnic identity. And then we talk about the definition of ethnic identity. And then, again, a lot of people take pride in their ethnic heritage, whether you came from Russia, Ireland, Africa, Cuba, Germany, England, Vietnam. And then we'll talk about it more in class about groupthink as far as kind of why that happens and how you tend to kind of keep your thoughts positive about your culture and where you're from. So and again, I think this is important too, knowing that as far as being proud of your culture and your race helps you have more confidence, and then that enables the toddler to have more confidence in themselves. If they have more confidence, they're not going to have the cognitive noise. They're going to do better and better and better, and then that rolls over and over and over through life. And then we'll talk about in Erickson things too. It's like if you're on the right road, you'll generally stay on the right road, but once you get off, something really major has to happen to kind of get you back on that other side of that road. It's like there's it's almost like this versus thing. So it's got like trust on this side, mistrust on the other. So once you you want to stay on this side, this trust side, but once you get on this side, it'll generally just kind of rolls over until something's pretty major interventions done to get you on this side. Then once you're on this side, that'll generally stay the same for the most part too. More likely. So again, just some things here. Just make sure you know. Again, of course, got some highlighted stuff down there. I'll just say that. And then just stressing the importance. It's really in here, but we'll talk about it in class too. I think it's important to stress the importance of the positive history of your race or culture or background to your child. Again, like I said, to help that confidence type thing. And again, here it says, too, a strong ethnic identity is also associated with a range of positive academic behaviors, including classroom engagement, motivation, achievement, and educational attainment. And then, of course, awareness of ethnic differences. There's a sentence there after Clark and Clark, Cats and Chalk, 1974. By a certain age, white children identify their ethnic group with a frequency of 100%, as opposed to African American children of the same age identify with their ethnic group at a much lower rate. And know those percentages. So then, let's see here, still reading. All right, I'm sorry. So, okay, so then I should have written this on my notes. So let me write that here, skim. So from page 369, where it's ethnics, sorry, I've got it written there, 369, to page 378. So there's some things, again, all important stuff Then I get to gender role socialization. Right there you can kind of see the car, so you'll pick up reading where it's highlighted there on page 378. Want to know what that is, and then what the second paragraph, what are probably the biggest influential socializer of gender roles, who plays that part, and then maybe and again just talks about the jobs. This generally happens between males and females. Again, that of course is changing a bit, but and then also too, something was really cool as far as it talks about girls without brothers or only one brother tend to have less traditional attitudes towards gender roles. So again, we're a lot of times we think about. I try to say, how does this affect you? Because again, if it's important to you, you're going to pay attention more. You'll do better on the quizzes. You'll remember the material, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's part of motivation that we'll go over in class. But again, if say you're dating somebody, and then you get married, you have kids, and then when you're raising the kids, so just remember. So if this girl doesn't have any brothers, she may be. Any brothers, I think it may be more. She may be more of anything goes, as far as but then as far as the different gender roles, and then if you I guess since we only have a few guys in the class, I don't know if this is even helping that much. But as far as guys, again, if they marry someone, or again, well, let's think about, like, say your brother, say I'm sorry, can I start over? So if your brother gets married and he's having problems with his wife on raising the children, something that I think would be some really important information as far as knowing that if your sister-in-law, for the girls, if your sister-in-law is all about boys do this and girls do this, it may be interesting to say, hey, yes, I can see where you're coming from, because it is so that if somebody has more siblings like this, they'll tend to have more roles. And then, but if you were like an only child, or just having one sibling, like my brother, or you as the person who's married, you may not see things that way. I think I confused myself as I started to go over that, but anyway, I guess it'll be easier to explain in class since I had a little practice run there. Again, so what we're looking at here on this paragraph there where it's highlighted at the bottom, I wrote here social learning. So remember, that's the Bandura thing that we talked about in the first chapter about these. Again, they begin to spend time with older children. That's where they figure out their gender roles as far as in their adolescence. And then, gosh, I'm going too long again. I swear I try to make this thing about 10 minutes and just keeps going over and over. All right, so you're going 378. I doubt I'll ask anything from page 380. And then as far as 381, I've got some stuff here highlighted you might want to know. And of course, it's about achievement, motivation, and then again, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I'll definitely list these out, and then like which one is not. So make sure you know physiological, safety, love, esteem, self-actualization. And say I put something, off the wall or something like that, or just throw in another vocabulary word. And again, I just think that again, it's just always something, and we just tend to want to worry. Something I'm actually reading now too is about stress, and how it's actually may not be as dangerous as it is if you consider the stress as something good. Meaning, like, if you have a lot of, think about it. If you have a lot of stress, how much work do you get done? Like with this paper coming up or the outline coming up, if you wait till, you'll probably get a lot done, and say the last couple of days, and you may think to yourself, gosh, if I could have just done, an hour a day, that type thing. But I can promise you, by doing things a couple hours a day, the results are always so much better because you can review. It's just like if you write a paper and give it a few days and look at it, you'll see all the mistakes that you made that are so obvious, but then at the time you'd have bet everything you own that there's hardly any mistakes in it. So, and then of course, I guess you got a lot of discussion in this about extrinsic and extrinsic motivation. This is on page 383, so I'll be asking some things about it. Yes, because I'm at page 378, so gosh, I hope I didn't confuse myself here as far as skipping. Okay, so then some other things about motivation here. Kind of see in the book some things I got highlighted. I'll just keep it simple. Probably be asking about the stuff that's highlighted. As far as at the bottom there, as far as self I just forgot the word. Can I pause it? Efficacy, self-efficacy. It took me about a year to say that word properly, but it's self-efficacy. And hope and self-efficacy, those two things are when somebody's going to get better, as far as changing their life for the better. Those two things are going to help somebody really change their life around. If they don't have those two things, if you're doing any type of therapy or you're teaching a child that's just not getting it, it's going to be those two things over and over and over and over. Those two things, if you can make the self-efficacy, is basically having the confidence that you can do it. And then also, too, you got to know there's hope. Hey, if I do this, this is going to work type thing. So something to think about. I pretty much count on that being on the quiz. So then page 385, just knowing that. Of course, again, I've got some at the bottom, you got task-oriented goals or learning-oriented goals. Those are italicized. And then there's another word coming down there. Gosh, I guess it's the third paragraph. Goal theories and motivation emphasize students' reasons for choosing, performing, and persisting at various academic activities. And this Dweck lady, I really like some stuff she read. She wrote this book called Mindset. She's a fantastic book. So okay, I'm on page 386. 386 talks about performance-oriented goals and ego-oriented goals, and also too with mastery-oriented problem-solving approach. And then also, too, learned helplessness. Really neat. Make sure understand learned helplessness. And that's just where I think a lot of times they show it with a dog, where if you tell the dog no over and over and over, they'll tend to not. They'll just kind of give up. Like the thing about how they'll tie a small chain and just put a stake in the ground to an elephant, because when the elephant was born and small, that stake and the chain held the elephant there. The elephant would try to get away, and obviously when you're running and a chain catches your leg at full throttle, it kind of hurts. So elephants are pretty smart folks, and they figure out real quickly that they don't need to do that. So that's what we mean by learned helplessness. So that's why just that little chain and the thing that the elephant, because of learned helplessness, won't try to get out. And probably too with learned helplessness, like we talked about last time with correcting students with dialects, correcting it over and over, they could get learned helplessness, and that would be that reason for silencing. So conclusions about motivational theories. Obviously, that's going to be important. So, but there's this sentence here. Unfortunately, research has shown that rewards and incentives can undermine students' intrinsic motivation to learn. So again, as far as I guess we'll talk. So so make sure you know this focus on research as far as ninth graders and things like that on page 388. So make sure you know that up top there. Even though I may have even said skip or skim it. Well, if I said to skim it already, I guess not. Don't worry about it. But do know what it's. Do know that part there. So you're skip skimming to page. Whoa, you just get to skip everything, don't you? And then also too, I'll give you a break and not ask anything on page 397 or 398, which is your the chapter summary. And then again, fair amount of pages, but again, they're pretty important. Hopefully they're somewhat interesting enough to read to keep you going. You know what's going to be on the, pretty much what I said will be on the quizzes. If you want to maybe go back through and listen to it a few times, and if I say a word, stop it, fast forward, whatever you need to do. And then of course too, we'll go over so if a question on the post test, most of those are going to be covered in the slides or on the, in the lecture as well. So again, sorry to kind of put a damper in your spring break. I guess it's my spring break too, but anyway, I want to give you a little bit of time to work on your outlines, because again, if you had these two things going, study for the quiz, prep for the outline, since you're really not sure, you haven't done so many outlines, but you've taken a ton of quizzes, the tendency is to do the quiz, to work on the quizzes, where you really ought to be working on the outlines. I mean, with the drops we have, some of you have drops that an extra drop, but again, just doing this outlines, it's really important. Again, I put some notes there, just going back through my paper. Again, mine's a lot longer, so your outline doesn't need to be near as long. You can almost just figure out how many pages I wrote, and then figure out how many pages you need to write. That might give you an idea of how long it needs to be. And again, it's going to be 4 points, right? But then I will take 1 or 2 points away, depending on when you write your paper, because you're going to email it to me. I'll have your paper, I'll have your outline that I can look to see how, if you incorporated what you worked on the outline on the paper. Again, this is really designed to help you. Again, it's something I hope you can continue to do with your other papers. And plus, two, when you're doing your outline, please attempt to do your APA stuff there. Try to do the APA. I think on mine, my outline too, I did all my APA. My references were pretty much done, that type thing. It'll make it a lot easier when you're doing your paper. And then what will happen too, over time, you'll see it several times. You'll be able to make some obvious corrections that you're missing right now. So I think that is it. And again, I will give 5 points, out of 100. So it's like one free question. Of course, I think I'm going to have an extra credit question as well. But if you use those Cornell notes, and I'll post the way to do them. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect, but just that general, having your line and having it separated in that kind of grid that I have. And then also too, maybe I should have showed you, because what I'm going to do is let's see here. So that kind of gives a better idea. See what the page looks like. So you see where it says date and purpose. Wow, that's good. And then you've got right here, it says notes right there. Then it says Q column. So those are the Q's you write for, like I did with that organization. And at the bottom it says summary. Okay. So hope that will help. And have a great rest of the break, and I'll see you on Monday.